Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Greg DuCharme, and this is your round one recap of the Sanderson Farms Championship. And joining me to break it all down is Doug Bell, live from the scene. Doug, is this your favorite event to cover on the PGA Tour?
Well, it's one of them because it's such a short drive from my home in Alabama, a little less than 3 hours. And I love the climate this time of year. I mean, here we are in the fall. There's no humidity, which in the South, we rejoice when that happens. And this golf course, Greg, is very underrated. The Country Club of Jackson. It is really, really a good track. And the more players come every year, new players, the more they spread the word. And it's kind of getting around like, hey, you might want to go to Jackson because it's really a great track. And I think the bottom line is the greens. The Bermuda, it hasn't gone dormant yet, and it's perky, and they can really mow it down and get them sizzling fast. And that's another reason why I like it and why the players like it.
Yeah, they look to be moving at a pretty healthy speed.
Yeah.
But I would say, Doug, well, first of all, we got a nice little show for you lined up. We're going to keep it quick. We are on YouTube, so make sure you give us a follow there. Like and subscribe, drop a 5-star review, all that good stuff. We got to get that in there. But the scoring was out there today. We had 4 rounds of 64 at 8 under par, and maybe some unexpected 64. Sebastian Munoz, our defending champion. No surprise that he played well. He is a player who's been, I would say, gathering a lot of momentum, going back to a place where he's quite comfortable. But then you have Charley Hoffman, Jimmy Walker, and Kevin Chappel, all players that we haven't really seen a whole lot of lately, which I found very interesting. But Mark, let's talk a little bit about our defending champion, Sebastian Munoz. He makes birdie on 4 of his last 6 holes. He got streaky out there a couple of times. He had a great streak on the front 9, a great streak on the back 9. And he's looking to become the first defending champ. What did you make of his round today? What do you think of his chances going forward?
I think they're really good. He's a kid with a lot of talent. When you watch him play, he lets it all hang out, especially on the tee ball. I mean, he leaves nothing. There's no question mark. He's going for it. And I love that aggressive strategy. Greg, as you know, there's certain golf courses when a player gets on property, whether they're playing good or not, it's like, I love this place. And this place for Sebastian is what he loves. I mean, this is the oasis that he strives for. We saw it last year when he beat Sung JM in that playoff and played fantastic. And today got hot in the back 9 and closed the deal. His beautiful girlfriend or fiance now walks every hole with him. They're a great couple. I think he is the tip of the iceberg as far as what he's going to do. I think he's going to have one of those like wow careers over the next 10 years. I think he's that good, Sebastian Munoz.
I heard at the end of the broadcast that he did a little bit of work with Butch Harmon, and Butch kind of freed him up a little bit and kind of took the governor off and let him really go after it and play a little bit more aggressive. And that's kind of exactly what you're speaking to. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings to the table going forward. Charley Hoffman, another player at 8 under par, and this is something he likes to do at the Masters, but it's not something you see every day on the PGA Tour. So with Charley, were you surprised to see Charley have this kind of round? He did gain 2.1 strokes putting, but he hit the ball quite nicely as well, hitting 15 greens, gained nearly 3 strokes approaching the green. Did this round surprise you out of Charley Hoffman today?
It did. He hasn't played great up to this point, although his physique is changing. He's a guy like a lot of these guys who've gone to the gym. He's working out like crazy. If you look at him, it's like, wow, Charley, what happened? I mean, he's fit. He's muscular. He's hitting it farther. He's averaging about 8 or 9 yards more off the tee. And I always thought he was a long hitter anyway. And I think finally, maybe the new physique is just kind of coming into form. You know what I mean? Sometimes when those guys lose weight, it's kind of like, their game, they kind of lose it and they have to get their form back. And I think maybe, hopefully this is a good start of a good week for him.
It's really interesting. These players that are in this, Charley Hoffman's 43 years old, which is, it's an interesting age because you're not old. You're still, you're not, you got a lot more years, right? You got at least 7 more years on the PGA Tour, yet you're kind of in this no man's land area. You've made quite a nice living for yourself. You're doing okay. And these young kids coming up seem to have so much more potential. So I look at a guy like Charley Hoffman and very similar view of Jimmy Walker, where they're in this place where it's almost like a crossroads. Are you going to keep doing what you've been doing for your entire career, or are you going to change and adapt and try to keep up with the 18, 19, sometimes 17-year-old kids that are coming out and hitting the ball the way they do. But Charley's a guy who works out at TPI in San Diego, which is a great, if you've never been, it's an amazing facility, and they have an amazing fitness team and fitness facilities as well. So it's no surprise that he's gone this direction with his body, knowing everybody that he works with. So it'll be interesting to see what Charley does going forward. But another player kind of in a similar boat, Doug, as we mentioned, Jimmy Walker. And it's been a little while, I understand, since he's played around like this.
Yeah, more than 2 years since he shot a 64. 3 years ago, remember when he won the PGA Championship? He had like a 3-year run where he won more than anybody on the PGA Tour, more tournaments, more money. I mean, he was arguably the best player on the PGA Tour. And then after that PGA Championship, injuries, had Lyme disease, a lot of things happened, and his game just completely fell off the radar screen. So today was somewhat of a surprise even to him. I followed him early, Greg, and interviewed him afterwards, and he sounded like a guy who was very pleased but very surprised. A bogey-free 64. Said the putter, he said he made a ton of putts. He did reach the par 5 third hole. He was the only guy, I think, today who reached that green in 2 shots, at least through most of the round. That's the last I saw. So I don't know. I hope he keeps playing well, because I think the world of Jimmy Walker, but I don't know. This was lightning in a bottle in one day, I believe.
You mentioned that time period where he was winning so much. I mean, he won 6 times in 2014, 15, and 16 on the PGA Tour. So he earned nearly $6 million in 14, 4.5 in 15, and of course won the major championship in 2016. He earned $4.1 million. And since, he's only had one other season. I guess he's had 2 other seasons with $1 million, but the next year he earned $1 million, then 2 after that. And in 19 and of course, and in 20, he was under $1 million, or significantly. So it is nice to see him back in contention. I love watching that golf swing. So Lyme disease is tough, though. That's one of those things you deal with symptoms. The reports I hear, you deal with them for basically the rest of your life. So it'll be interesting to see what he has going forward. And another player, Doug, who has been through some injury and some back troubles, although he did somewhat recently anyway, shoot around a 59 at the Greenbrier last year, yet the game has not been in great form. And Kevin Chappel here today, bogey-free 64, gained 3.5 putting, gained 3.38 to tee to green. The signature shot was the chip in par at the 6. So what do you think of Kevin Chappel? Is he another guy that this is just lightning in a bottle for one round? Or do you think the back is kind of healing up and we're going to see a player who's capable of shooting rounds like 59?
I think he is capable. He's on a major medical and he has like 18 tournaments to go. So he's really not in any sort of pressurized situation. We interviewed him on the radio after his round, and, he said, listen, he goes, the reason he hasn't been playing good, bad scheduling and bad play. He said, that's a bad combination. He thought he started back too early, and now he said he's getting his feet back underneath him, getting used to playing on the road away from the family. Because as he said, when you go home and you're injured and you're with your family, it's kind of like, hey, this is kind of a nice life. I kind of like being around the baby, my wife, and then you go back on the road. So he's getting readjusted. And he's another guy who works with Mark Blackburn in my hometown of Birmingham, out at Greystone Golf Club. So he goes out there along with Charley Hoffman, by the way. So those are 2 guys who are kind of getting things honed back into form in my backyard. So yeah, he's the one guy. It wouldn't shock me if he went on to have a really good week.
Yeah, it feels like this one is marked more so by, I suppose with Jimmy Walker, to me, has 2 things, right? There's the Lyme disease and also Butch Harmon kind of taking a back seat in the coaching. With Kevin Chappel, it seems like it's just simply the back injury. It's just a one-time thing that seems to be, well, hopefully it's a one-time thing, but it seems to be moving in the right direction. And those things can be, it seems like he's finally solved the problem. I mean, don't forget, this is a guy that in 2016, he came in 8th on the PGA Tour for the season, earned $4.5 million. So he is, he had 4 second-place finishes that year. And then in 2017, he won. So definitely a player who is extremely talented, and I look forward to seeing what they're going to do. Now, as far as players for tomorrow's round, players who you expect to make a move tomorrow, is there anybody that really sticks out at you? Is there any one of these 4 players, or maybe someone a little farther down the leaderboard who jumps out to you?
I really like Sebastian Munoz. I followed him a lot last year, and he was in the group in front of me today. I was assigned Henrik Stenson and Sergio and Adam Long, and they were the group right in front. So I would always get up to the green and watch Sebastian. And, I said, gosh, there's another birdie. There's another birdie. And he was really playing good. So I suspect he's going to come out early tomorrow morning. And the golf course seems to be a little more gettable in the morning, maybe, even though you had those late 64s on Thursday. I just think tomorrow morning it's going to be soft. The green's going to be perfect. And I think Sebastian Munoz will go out and shoot another good round. I mean, listen, 68, 67, something like that puts him in great shape heading into the weekend. Again, he's a guy who he loves this track. And they say horses for courses. There's just places that fits their eye or whatever reason. I think this is one of those places for Sebastian.
The defending champion aspect, I think this year is different. It's in a unique spot because there's no spectators. So the attention isn't, the spotlight doesn't seem to be shined quite as bright. And you would know more than me being out there, but it kind of softens that aspect, which is a challenge. And it's one of the reasons why we rarely pick defending champions. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The player who won last week and the defending champion are two guys that, from a picks perspective, I often stay away from, because it's rare that they're going to have a better performance than they did the last year or the last time. So I generally stay away. But you open with a 64. It's something like 73% of winners on the PGA Tour, Doug, are in the top 10 after their first round. So you have to start well and you have to finish well as well. But this is a really important round. And for a defending champion, I believe that the first round can be the hardest one, because your expectations are so high. You're so excited for the event. You want everything to go just the way it went the year before when you won. And if it doesn't, that can be a damper. And for him to open with 64, I think he's got to be the favorite right now, especially when you have a Charley Hoffman, a Jimmy Walker, and a Kevin Chappel who have major question marks about them. And you don't know where they are. You don't know if this round was I'm not going to call it lucky, but is this a once in a blue moon kind of a round, or has somebody really found something? With Sebastian and his recent form and his success here, you got to believe that he's in really good form. Doug, is there anybody else who's not in the lead that really jumps out to you that you think is a threat heading into tomorrow and maybe even through the weekend?
Well, I followed Sergio today, Greg. This is interesting. Here's a guy who does well when he plays in a tournament for the first time. If you look back through his career for whatever reason, which is kind of crazy. So he's experiencing the Sanderson Farms at Country Club of Jackson for the first time. I was looking in his bag today. He has no club deal. This is Sergio. I mean, he's got a TaylorMade driver. He's got ping irons. I mean, listen, I'm nosy. I was looking through everything. So I think this is, it's unusual. Do you know he's added more than 10 yards to his drives over the last year? And, of course, Bryson DeChambeau is number one in that category. He's averaged like 18 yards to his drive. Yeah. But Sergio, more than 10 yards a drive. So he's picking up distance. Yeah, that's impressive. His iron play was Sergio personified today. Missed some putts that were makeable, but he still shot 68. So, I mean, Sergio, listen, 5 of the last 6 winners have been number one in ball striking, strokes gained, tee to green. That's Sergio. And 5 of the last 6 winners have hit at least 75% of their greens in regulation. Again, that's Sergio. Yep. So I'm going to be watching him. Putting still holds him back. There's no question about it. But, man, he's still a great ball striker, regardless of what kind of iron he's hitting.
So today, Sergio was second in strokes gained off the tee. He was 19th approach the green. He was 11th tee to green, and he was 70th in strokes gained putting. He was basically right around even today. Nothing lost, nothing gained. He lost 0.001 strokes putting. But, the thing is with Sergio, I don't have any problems with his driving or his ball striking. I love the way that he hits it, but it can get frustrating when you don't take advantage of it. And we've watched it for years. It's like how this guy is so talented tee to green, yet he's always so angry at you, feel like, because it's like, how did I not shoot the score that I shot? So when you play that way, you always leave disappointed. conversely, we have to get his name in there. Jordan Spieth, when he's playing well, it always feels like, how did he shoot that low? He hit it all over the place. So he's leaving happy. And I know that this is vintage Jordan I'm talking about here, but he's leaving happy. Sergio, they might shoot the same score. Sergio leaves upset. So I find that to be a rather interesting kind of parallel. But Doug, the guy that I'm looking at for tomorrow is Cameron Davis, who's a guy that we've been on here on the podcast for a while. He is a rising, I'd like to say a star. I'm not sure he's quite there yet. He certainly has the golf swing to be a star. So I'm interested in what he can do. It wasn't the greatest day. It wasn't the greatest day approaching the green. He had a great day putting. He led the field in strokes gained putting, but I don't look at him as a player where that's his thumbprint. I think he can hit the ball better than he did today. And I think that's going to take a rise. So he gets his bad ball striking round out of the way while he leads the field in strokes gained putting. I think he's going to turn it up tee to green. And so I'm kind of going against the grain here. I'm going against the model. And I think Cameron Davis is going to have a great rest of the week.
Well, we'll see what happens. The course is in great shape. So the score is going to continue to be good, Greg. So we'll see what happens. And the weather's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, it looked like there was no wind out there today. It looked perfect. No. Is there a place where you feel like a guy is too far back after round one? Or are you wait and see after 2 rounds, see where they are after the 36-hole mark, and then we get a real idea of who's still in the mix?
Well, I think it's a long golf course. It's like the 4th longest on the PGA Tour. So 64 is maybe about as low as they can go. There's some tough par 4s out here. The greens are really fast, so 3-putts are waiting to bite you. So 64 is a really good score. So again, I think after 36 holes, if you're within 5 or 6 shots, you got a chance on Saturday to make a move. But I think if you're farther back than that, because everybody's going to be bunched up on a golf course like this, and that's kind of what we've seen in its history over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will bunch up. If you're a player like Scotty Scheffler, who shot 1 under or 1 over today, or a Sam Burns, who shot 1 under today, a very popular pick on this podcast for sure, you got a lot of work to do tomorrow. And it's probably going to take 64 to 66 to put yourself back in the mix, because a round of a round of 70 or 72 doesn't go a long way over 4 rounds. So it'll be interesting to see, but they're definitely going low. So, hey, Doug, thanks for joining us live from the scene. Doug Bell, you can get him on Twitter at Doug Bell Sports Guy. I'm Greg DuCharme. You can get me on Twitter at TheRealGFD. We'll be with you for each round of the Sanderson Farms, giving you recaps. Tomorrow, Rick will join us. Thank you so much for listening, watching if you're on YouTube, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.